Welcome into Higher Living today. I am super pumped to have this guest on. Very grateful. Welcome in, Angie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm so awesome. And I have to start just seriously. I'm so honored to have you on and so proud to know you and to know someone like you. Like, you're super strong. Your story is amazing. And thank you so much. You've been such a good friend and help to me. I'm grateful.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you. This is amazing.
So tell us about your book, Angie. What is the
Okay.
name of it? Tell us
Um,
a little bit about you first.
okay. About me, I'm a badass.
Yes, you are. Yes,
I'm
you are.
growing into it every day.
Yes, you are.
Um, I was severely abused as a child, and I have spent basically most of my life trying to heal. Some things worked, some didn't. And I'm not the type of person that likes doing things in the traditional manner, like going through traditional talk therapy. So I wanted to find something outside of that. I mean, because I'm normal is boring, and it's not me. It doesn't feel right. I've always kind of sought out a more spiritual path to things,
Mm-hmm.
and um, and it's kind of interesting. I'm of the mindset that everything happens for a reason, and that I was originally from Minnesota, and I
Lovely
got
winters you got up there.
what was that?
I said lovely winters you have up there.
Oh God, yeah,
Winters. Oh, I know.
yeah, like 28 years there, and
Wow.
and I don't know how I managed it, but
I don't either.
it took me getting laid off from a job of 21 years
Wow.
to move out to Colorado. And
Okay.
a friend of mine had been wanting me to move out there forever.
Yeah.
Um, and I came to visit probably about 3 or 4 times before I finally, got laid off and said, okay, I'm doing it. I'm just moving across country. I just know one person here, but it's going to be good.
I love it.
So, yeah, and I actually came across, it was interesting because my friend Janelle um, found me a job doing real estate photography, and I'm a photographer, so I'm like, hey, this is right up my alley.
Mm-hmm.
And the gal who um, I was working under knew Angela, and Angela became my therapist, and did a bunch of we tried everything. We tried hypnotherapy, which when you're abused, or at least me, you feel so out of control, and you don't want to give up any control.
Yeah.
Now that you have some. So I did not let myself go down completely, but hindsight, what I got out of the hypnotherapy is the core of my issue. Just looking back, I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then she taught me how to work with crystals, how to work with angels. We did EFT, which is emotional freedom technique.
Mm-hmm.
She introduced me to a gal who does SRT, which is spiritual response therapy. And I later learned under Deanna how to do SRT, and I've been doing it for the past 5 years.
That
I've
one I
had
don't know much about. Tell me more about that.
SRT.
Yeah.
Spiritual response therapy is okay. So healing happens. It has to happen on mind, body, spirit, and like talk therapy, works with the mind. EFT kind of it reprograms the mind to take away the emotional aspects out of the abuse
Mm-hmm.
and the traumatic events. And SRT is on it's
But
part body
you there?
and
Uh-huh.
part spirituality. SRT, and my whole understanding is that before we come down in body, we actually work with our guides and our angels on what lessons we want to learn in that lifetime. And then when we're born, we're injected with those lessons along with all of the previous lessons we didn't complete. So not only do we come into body, but we basically come into this world with baggage from previous lifetimes that we didn't learn. And it's our job to remember why we came down and to follow through and learn those lessons. And the interesting thing with me is I am finally in this lifetime, I think I'm going to be clearing probably most of the abuse out of my whole past and present. You know, I'm a work in progress. Going through abusive situations, it's like peeling an onion, and it can be frustrating at times, and it feels like you're not making any progress, but you are. So it's just interesting. And with SRT, because I had the whole background of, I did the talk therapy, I was doing the EFT, and just introducing this aspect of it, I think that was a more productive way of healing. And it's interesting now because my mentor who taught me SRT has been doing SRT for many years, and is just now starting her talk therapy and going through therapy. And I think she's having a little bit harder of a time than I did, because I had a very good foundation by the time I learned SRT. But there's more than one way to skin a cat. I'm not saying that that's the way you have to go.
Sure.
Everyone is different. And especially with the abuse is different. I mean, mine was sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And there's so many things and layers and whatnot with the abuse. So some people who are sexually abused either become promiscuous, or they, you know, hide themselves off and don't date anyone, and they're just hermits, you know. And you can either turn to drugs or alcohol, or turn to food, or, you know, I mean, there's so many different things, especially if you look at sexual abuse. I mean, like with me, I gained weight, and it was a way to protect myself that, okay, if I'm fat, guys won't like me, then I won't get hurt. And it was just protection. And some go the other way where they're anorexic because they're just not good enough. Or, I mean, there's a lot of self-worth issues and shame and guilt. And even though I understand I was a child when this happened and none of it's my fault, there's still that shame and guilt.
Yeah. And I know that's so tough, the guilt part, you know. I mean, it seems from the outside like it's irrational, you know, like why would you feel guilty? Because you were the victim, but not the case.
Yeah, but actually the way I kind of, you know, now that the way I understand things, I was never the victim because I chose this life. You know what I mean? I chose these lessons, so it made it a little bit easier. But I've still noticed that from time to time I still play the victim, which it irritates me because I hate it when people play the victim, because that's still in my well, up until now, I'm working to get rid of that.
It's ego, you know. I mean, and it, you know, and that's the thing. Like things will be going great, and then all of a sudden it pops up. It gets scared that you're changing. You know, it's resistant. There's no doubt about it.
So much resistance. And it's very interesting when I started therapy with Angela is that.
And Angela is a mutual friend, by the way, that introduced us. So shout out to Angela. Today's her birthday. Happy birthday, Angela.
Oh, it's her birthday.
Yeah. I texted her this morning, but yeah, continue.
Happy birthday.
We love you.
Yeah. Funny story. So when I met Lance, was well, we had an experience where Lance got hurt, and they brought him back to the house, and I stayed by the fire pit. And then I saw Angela kind of whistling, kind of whipping around a shovel, and I'm like, oh my God, he didn't make it. That was my first thought. And I'm a smart ass, but I'm just like, okay.
And it was, for the record, it was a cut between, right, like a diamond shape right between my eyes, like third eye.
Yep.
It was, and it was gone in like 3 days. So yeah,
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, it was very bizarre. Yeah, it was gone like almost instantly. Yeah.
That's funny. But it was
Yes. Oh, the shovel. Yes. Oh God, we had some laughs. Oh.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, like with Angela, it's like I was scared shitless that if I healed from this and cleared it, since it was my entire life, I'd be left a shell of a person.
Yeah.
And again, that's irrational as well, because I wasn't left with a shell of a person. I have a freedom about me and a peace about me that I've never had in my entire lifetime. And that is all the work that I've done, going forward. And Landmark's actually part of that as well, because Landmark is Landmark, it's like Fight Club. You don't talk about Landmark.
It's awesome, whatever it is, because I've met a lot of people from it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an organization that that helps you have the life you love, and it's just amazing.
It seems almost like the way I'm conceiving it, and from what I do as a life coach, it seems almost like group coaching, but with accountability and support and encouragement. And
yep. Yeah, they so basically the curriculum for living is the Landmark Forum.
Mm-hmm.
The forum is kind of the introduction to their work, and it basically, okay, so it's like a pie chart where there's a piece of the pie that is what you know,
mm-hmm.
and a piece of the pie you know what you don't know. The rest of the pie is you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do something with what you know, and you can do something with something that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you do with what you don't know?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. You can't do anything with it. And it basically helps you see those blind spots in your
mm-hmm.
life, so that you can either, disappear things, or, just become accountable for basically your existence on this planet, and your communication with everyone else.
Love
it's the interesting thing too, and this is the one thing that I still kind of struggle with, the concept that in relationships, you are 100% the relationship. Yeah. Which, I mean, it makes sense in one aspect where you're responsible for yourself, and you're responsible for how you communicate things and how you take things. And we as human beings like to make up shit. Yeah. And that made up shit is what breaks down relationships. And also, we can make up negative stuff. And if we make up the negative stuff, why can't we make positive stuff? It just seems easier to, it seems so easy to be negative and not positive.
I know
it's crazy.
I thought we are. I mean, we are crazy. I mean, and it's so true. I heard this, but like, we're the only species. We're the only living species that tries to be what it's not.
That what?
That try to be what we are not.
Oh, yep, yeah.
Like, dogs don't try to be cats and vice versa. Like, nature just is. Like, they don't even try to be different breeds.
But the interesting thing with being human is that we're limited by our limiting beliefs. So, we limit ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you're talking about too. And I want to get back. I mean, I would love to have you back. There's tons of other things. I know you do the paranormal health stuff, which is fascinating. But also when you're talking about, the past life and afterlife and coming here with a contract, I recently discovered Dolores. What was her name? Claiborne? That may not be her name. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
She's like an expert. She was on YouTube. She died in like 2014, but like an expert on people that have had near-death experiences. She's fascinating. Maybe Dolores Cannon. Maybe it's Cannon. I think that's it. But like, it's the same thing. Like she said that even like in your dreams, like people have like a silver chain attached, but and it's true, like when we die, they weigh our body before death, they weigh it right after death. It's the same weight. So what is that part of us, and what happens when we sleep, it's fascinating.
It's our soul.
Yeah, I know.
The thing is, it's very interesting. And it's the soul that, we're energetic beings. Energy never dies. So when our bodies die, we shed our bodies and our soul goes on.
Yeah.
And it just depends on how quickly, how quickly you learn the lessons and what. Now, the thing is, I'm of the mindset that if you find yourself in the same situation over and over again, there's something there you haven't learned. And the universe is going to keep bringing it up until you listen and actually do something with that and learn so that you don't ever have to have that experience again. And it's kind of the same things with like over lifetime. So if you've got this lesson that you decided you wanted to learn, you didn't, it's going to come back the next lifetime, the next lifetime, the next lifetime, until you actually do it. So
I love it. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah. And I because I do SRT, I kind of see things on an energetic level. And I feel people before I actually see them. And that's kind of, I like to say I dumb lucked my way into this whole ghost hunting thing, because when I was a real estate photographer, I'm an empath and things like to attach to me. And I used to have to see a shaman twice a year to clear myself. And I was having experiences in these homes that I'm just like, okay, I don't want to have to keep shelling out $50 every 6 months to have some shaman clear me. I want to have to learn that myself because I'm of the mindset that I'm all that I need. And if I don't have the knowledge of something, then I definitely want to get it because I want to be able to do things for myself. And that's how I ran into Deanna, who does SRT. She's also a ghost hunter. I don't know if she's doing it anymore. But then her friend Sherry I ran into, and now Sherry and I like to say we do a bunch of badassery. We do stuff to make this planet a better planet. Like when I learned SRT, I started clearing the Holocaust, clearing the land of the Holocaust, and clearing America of all the wars between the white man and Native Americans. And I go to sweat lodges, so the Native American aspect is very important to me. And several of my guides are Native Americans. I have 2 chiefs and 1 medicine woman. At least that's the 3 that I've met. And I've worked with many different Native American spirits to kind of continue clearing this land. And a lot of the homes in Colorado a lot of the neighborhoods are built on Native burial grounds. And so having to clear that aspect along with, other aspects, either spirits that haven't crossed over or things from other dimensions. And that's a whole other ball of wax.
No, I know.
Like another.
You're totally coming back for that. No, I know. I can't wait. I'm dying to have you on in general, but absolutely. So yeah, let's get back to this book. So just kind of walk us through from the beginning, I guess.
Okay, this book. Okay, so when I started therapy with Angela, I told her that I need to write this book. So this has been 10 years in the making. And I actually had the cover done 10 years ago. But I felt like I didn't have enough knowledge or enough courage to actually do the book at that time. So I've just been doing what I'm doing to continue healing. Um, and then through Landmark, it was very interesting because, okay, so my abuse started when I was 8 months old.
Wow.
And I pieced it back to 8 months because that's when I started learning how to walk. And my dad actually sexually abused me. And he was abusing my older sister and telling her it was their special time. So when she noticed that I was getting special time, she was mad at me and would come up and push me down whenever I tried to learn how to walk.
Oh, wow.
And it got to the point where I would see her coming and just sit down.
Wow.
And of course, at the time, my parents thought it was funny. My mom was oblivious to the abuse, had no idea what was going on. And so, and my dad was also an alcoholic, and we tended to move around a lot. So my older sister was born in Minnesota. I was born in Wisconsin. My little sister was born in Illinois. Then we moved to New York. And it was
What part?
Norwich. Actually, upstate New York.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. It's okay. There's hesitation there because I have not talked to my dad about this book yet.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, this book has nothing to do with my dad other than the fact that he initiated the abuse and set me up for a lifetime of abuse. And that's something that he owns, and that's the whole dirty little secret. That's something I don't want to hold on to anymore. But at the same time, there's still love for my dad because he's my dad. So it's still kind of, that relationship is still kind of confusing to me.
Sure.
I haven't quite figured it out. I just know that having him in my life is bringing up things for me to heal.
Yeah.
And I, at some point, had a coming to Jesus meeting with God and said that I do not want to have any more lifetimes with my dad. I want this lifetime to be the very last lifetime, and that when he passes, that he cannot even check on me. He cannot see what I'm doing. He can't, nothing. It's like once he dies, the contact, everything is gone, cut, over, done. And yeah, I'm going to be so happy. Unfortunately, I'll be sad when it happens because I will never get an apology from him.
Yeah.
I understand this, but that does not change the fact that I'm going to heal.
Yeah.
You know,
and you're doing it now, you know, like this is super powerful, and you got to be proud of how far you've come.
Oh my God. I don't even know who I was when I was in my 20s, 30s,
Yeah.
and even I'm just like, it's like, who is that person?
Yeah. Isn't it funny?
So yeah, it's crazy, and it seems to have happened overnight, but it wasn't overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been years in the making.
Yeah.
And so, I forgot where I was in the story. Okay, so we were in New York, and when I was 7, my parents got divorced because my mom found out about the abuse, and she was a Christian woman. She didn't believe in divorce, but he forced her to make that decision. It was either divorce him, protect the children, or stay in a marriage where she's unhappy and she's having to fight to protect her children, knowing that she can't protect her children in this relationship. So she decided to get divorced, and there was a lot of other stuff going on at the time where it's even to this day, it's hard to prove sexual abuse. How do you prove that?
Yeah.
You don't. And in growing up, it was kind of weird. It's like I had this dream that and I woke up to this image of me as a child, and I went back to our photo albums, and I found the exact picture. It was me in a terry cloth robe, terry cloth slippers, holding graham crackers, and it was early in the morning.
How old were you?
It was like 4 or 5.
Gotcha.
And that's when I realized he would take pictures after the abuse so that he had his little momentum, or little what is it called? I can't even think of the word.
Memento.
Souvenir of the
Yeah.
abuse. Yeah. And I think that's why I became a photographer.
Interesting.
So I can control.
Yeah.
It's all about control. Once you, and the weird thing is, it's like when you're abused, you want to do the 180 degrees the other way.
Yeah. Elaborate on that.
Well, okay, so when you're abused, you're on one spectrum, and then you want to get as far away from that as possible. So that's 180 degrees away from it. So you're either too controlling or have no control. And the beauty of healing is to find that seemingly elusive happy medium. And because being controlling doesn't feel good, being abused doesn't feel good. And it's just finding that medium where you're free from the pain of the abuse, and that you're not having to overcompensate for it. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. So, and then, okay, so so my parents got divorced. We moved to Minnesota, where my family was. My mom left us with her. So my grandparents lived downstairs, and my aunt and uncle and cousins lived upstairs. And my mom left us with her sister and her husband to take care of us, so that she could, go to the next town over, get set up for school, find a home, find a job, and then come back and get us. And that was, I believe, was like a 3-week period. And during that time, actually, I have to back up a little bit. So if you're sexually abused, it's like a beacon gets turned on. And you know how bugs are attracted to light? Well, these abusers are attracted to that light. And when you get closer, it's like a neon sign on your forehead that says easy target. So now they no longer have to groom. They can just go in, abuse, and then walk away like nothing ever happened. And I had hundreds of abusers, and it was teachers, doctors, dentists, police officers. It was just people in power, It was just crazy to me, just thinking back now, how, and it's like sexual abuse was never talked about way back when, and it's really talked about now. It's probably a little bit more now, but it's still not talked about to the extent that it needs to be talked about. And with this book, I eventually want to see that sexual abuse doesn't happen anymore, and or sexual assaults. So that being said, on the energetic level, my dad set it up, basically changed my energy, so now I'm on the same frequency as all of these abusers. And so when we stayed at my mom's sister and her husband, her sister and husband actually raped me and my I don't know who else, but I know I was raped several times, 4 times in that 3-week period with them. And I was also raped by a friend's dad and a complete stranger. And this was all before the age of 10. And then I was also raped when I was 14 and in my 20s.
Wow.
And the thing is, during all of my, like the whole time I was with Angela, I'm like, well, at least I hadn't been raped, because my mind so blocked that out, because it knew that I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And that, and I kept, when I was in Landmark, I'd done a lot of work around the abuse, and then I just, I was talking to one of the people in my groups, and that's the cool thing about Landmark is when you're going through these programs, you have a group of people that it's your little group, and you all support each other in whatever you're doing, either healing or getting to where you want to get to. And in this group, I had some amazing people that basically had my back, and I was like, you know what, I have these I seriously thought of killing myself when I was 10, or when I was 12, between 10 and 12, and I could not forgive myself for going there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't let that go. I said, there's something here that I need to look at. I just don't know. And so they kind of gave me some tips on what I could do. And finally, I had 4 memories that came back.
Mm-hmm.
And with those 4 memories, it stopped right before something really bad happened. And I was just like, okay, I need to push through this and see what it is. And that's when I realized I had been abused or had been raped.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay. And the interesting thing was, I was just like, oh, that's interesting. I was raped. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, okay.
Wasn't as traumatic as you would have thought.
Well, because I had done all the work to get to that point, it would have been horrible
Mm-hmm.
had I not had
that. But so you like cleared the space to allow it to come into the light.
Yep. And then I understood why I couldn't forgive myself, because I wasn't honest with myself. So
tell me more about that.
Well, I wasn't,
because that's a common thing, I know.
Well, it's kind of like I lied to myself about no, there's kids over here. Sorry, I'm in my friend's backyard. She's
totally good.
She thought her cat was making a bunch of noise. I'm like, no, there's kids back.
Perfect.
So what was I saying now? Sorry.
That's okay. Talking about that your blame yourself.
Okay. Yeah, so basically I had lied to myself so that I could survive. And some may call it your inner child or whatever, because the inner child just holds on to that aspect and then covers it. I mean, it gets covered, it gets buried. Like I can't remember.
You're talking to one.
What was that?
I said you're talking to one. I know what you mean.
Yeah, and it took me till age 49
mm-hmm.
to understand that, or to finally remember that I had been raped. And this was when I remembered the rapes, it was around the same time the Kavanaugh hearings were happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember my stepmom basically say that this woman was making it up, and
mm-hmm.
and you can't just have memories like that, and she knew about it all along, and it's all political, and da 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 da, and she's making it up, and blah blah blah. And so I asked her, I said, okay, so I just remembered that I was raped 4 times before the age of 10. It's a memory that I just remembered. So by your standards, are you saying that never happened and that my memories weren't memories? And she just like paused. She goes, no, I'm sorry that happened to you. And I'm just saying that this is political and da 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 da. And I'm just like, you don't know. You never walked in that woman's shoes. You don't know what she went through. And the mind is a very, very funny thing. Yes. And it does what it has to do to protect you so that you can live on. That's its job. Good or bad, right or wrong, it's its job. Actually, there's no right or wrong. It just is.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's just
self-preservation, I guess I should say.
Yeah. because if I had remembered those rapes earlier, I honestly don't think I would be here today.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the support. I wouldn't have had the support or the work or the space cleared in order to do that work.
Yeah. How'd you start? How did you start the healing process? Was there a point you got to where you just had enough, or just gradual?
Well, you know what? It's my mom. My mom is amazing. And she feels that she did a horrible job because it happened to us. But then I was like, wait a second. And I kind of told her my whole belief system, and so it's like it had to have happened the way it happened, and it just is what it is. But I don't know. Okay, so basically the things that my mom did to help us heal is she was very creative. So we would have family time together, and we would basically draw pictures. So there's 4 of us, me and my 3 sisters, and we'd all have a piece of paper in front of us, draw a head, draw the lines for the neck, fold the head down, pass it to the next person to draw the next part of the body.
Huh.
And we did that until the whole body was done, and then we would show the pictures, and it was just very entertaining. And we kind of did that with words too, as writing a story. Write a couple sentences, have the last sentence viewed, and then fold it down, and then the other person takes off with the story. So it's
kind of like an ad libs or something.
Yeah,
or Mad Libs, I guess. That's cool.
Doing creative stuff like that was very healing in itself, and Absolutely. It gave us like a sense of what is it? Normality? What is the word?
Normalcy.
Yeah. And it's like, especially since our whole life has not been that. So, and I just, again, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my mom.
Yeah.
My mom and my younger sister, I call them my earth angels. So, and here's an interesting happened a couple years ago.
Okay.
I had a really hard time when my grandfather died, and I think he died when I was 16. And I couldn't figure out why I had such a hard time. And I always thought that it was because he was our tie to Norway. So when he was alive, the Norwegian side of the family would come over and visit. And then with him now dead, we kind of lost that line to Norway. But there was something more to it, and I couldn't quite figure it out. And then every time I'd think about him, I would cry. And finally, one weekend, I went over to Sherry's house. We were going to work on some stuff, and I'm like, you know what? This is what I'm dealing with right now. I don't know what it is. And she's like, I know what it is. And I was like, okay, what is it? And she was trying to help me talk to him because he had not crossed over in 30 some years.
Wow.
Because he wanted to ask for my forgiveness because he witnessed the abuse, or I think he witnessed the rapes, and he didn't know what to do with that information. And when he was alive, he asked his wife. His wife told him to stay out of it. So he basically took it to his grave, and he felt so guilty for not doing anything. And it was very interesting. So it took me about 45 minutes to get to the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm like so angry at you right now. And it, from the point of anger to being able to finally forgive him. And then we, because I was so upset, Sherry was actually doing the, talking to him and relaying the message to me. And it was just very interesting. And he told me not to hold my breath with my sisters and to not let that stop me. And that my mom is a gentle soul, and to not take things out on her, which I knew not to do anyway, because my mom rocks. It was very interesting. Then we were able to clear him up, cross him over, And then, I mean, now I think about him, and there's just not that urge to just bawl,
Yeah.
so and it's
Loving
very
memories.
interesting. And it
Yeah,
was finally
that's
able to cross over
yeah.
after 30 some years. And I asked him, I'm like, why me? And he's like, well, you're the only one ready,
Yeah.
you
You are
know?
ready. I mean, you're chosen. Like I've told you all along, like, I mean, it's a miracle you haven't had a needle in your arm. Like it's devastating. It's devastating what this does to people.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And with me, it's like every ounce of my body has just wanted to heal. And
Yeah.
I've done I've done the work to heal. Yeah, I've resisted it along the way because there's a whole shit ton of fear. Um, and it's that whole thing where it's kind of like the mind or inner child still wants to protect and still thinks it needs to protect, even though I was to the point where I could let it go and wanted to let it go.
Hmm.
It's very interesting.
I know that I buried a ton of my stuff too. Like, and I didn't even know my emotions. Like I remember the first time I went to counseling. I really didn't want to go. I was kind of forced
Yeah.
to go. But I remember him asking me, like, get me to talk about things. My dad died when I was 8 months old and got me to talk about it. And he's, how does this make you feel in your chest? I'm like sitting there waiting for him to tell me. I don't know. What are you
Right.
talking about, dude? Like, just the way we just completely bury shit.
Yeah. And the fact that we not only bury things but disconnect.
Yeah.
So it's like you're really not connected to your feelings. You're not connected to, and it's like right now it's like I'm learning how to connect to people. And I'm 50. I'm
Yeah.
50 fucking years old, and it feels like I mean, I feel like I've wasted my life, but I haven't,
No, you
because
haven't. No.
everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. So I just have to,
Your
it's
best
like,
is yet to
hey,
come. Your best is yet to come. And like
yeah,
you know that like sharing this is going to help a lot of people. And
yeah,
like there's so many, I mean, let's talk about that. Like, how does
there.
someone that's in the, what's it like? What's it like growing up that way?
It was a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of suffering in silence because you just don't talk about it. And I remember I had one boyfriend that well, it wasn't a boyfriend, it was the guy I was dating. And I happened to mention that to him, and he's like, thank you for telling me, but don't ever say that again.
Oh,
And I just
wow.
at him, and I was just like, okay, asshole, just because you can't handle it, go fuck off. So, at least I've always had that little aspect of me where I'm
Yeah.
just like, no, you're wrong. Fuck you. Go away. you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, but then again, I kind of took it the other direction, and it's like all the guys that I was gonna date, I'm like, hey, by the way, I was sexually abused. Do you want to deal with that? No, you don't. Okay, well, bye. So it's kind of like a self-sabotage thing, but yeah. And that's kind of why in my book I want to not only have stories of like I've interviewed several people,
Hmm.
and or I'm going to have their stories in the book. Now the names are going to be changed, but the stories are real.
Hmm.
It's just that some of these people are not to the point where I'm at that
Hmm.
they can actually say their piece about the story.
Yeah.
And so basically, the story is it can either imprison you or it can set you free. And I'm to the point where it's setting me free, and some people are still imprisoned by their stories, and or some have just not. They just
Existed.
they're fine with where they're at, but they
Hmm.
just want people to know about that aspect of their life.
Hmm.
And on a grand scale, it's going to be a book, everyone's going to be reading it.
Hmm.
So and I get it. I'm I'm to the point where a book like this has never been put out there before, and it has to be out there. And all of the oracle card readings that I've been getting, and the psychics I've talked to, they're like, you're going to be an author and you're going to be a teacher. And I was just like, yeah, whatever, you know. And I'm like, now I'm embracing it because it's like, yes,
You
this
sure
has
are.
to come out.
You sure are. Why is this unlike? What makes this unlike any other book?
It makes it unlike any other book because it's going to have the stories in the beginning. I'm going to interview a couple of ex-boyfriends just to get their take on what it's like to date somebody who's been abused,
Mm-hmm.
and the struggles that they went through. And then I'm going to talk about the different aspects of, well, basically like the anatomy of sexual abuse. And um, uh, I went I I mean, I understand my aspect of things. And then I went to a sexual abuse symposium in February, and they had kind of a different take on it, which also makes sense. And it's, it could definitely be the case for some people. Um, so it's like I want to, have all of that in there. Plus, I'm going to talk about the things that I've done to heal myself,
Mm-hmm.
like crystal therapy and working with the angels and EFT and SRT and landmark even, because all of these things help me get to the point where I'm at right now. And in fact, last October, I went through the self-expression and leadership program the first time. And it's a 4-month program, and it basically has you look at every aspect of your life and to kind of um, uh, get back into integrity with your life. And I got the peace and confidence to write this book during that program. And I even stood up in front of the class and said, yes, I'm coaching in April's self-expression and leadership program, even though I was scared shitless. And, and said, I'm writing a book called Dirty Little Secret, Breaking the Silence. And in coaching the self-expression leadership program, we actually have a project, and my project is my book. So the book is being written right now, and by August 1st, I wanted to have August 1st, my hopes are to have the first draft done.
Yeah.
And got 3 people going to be helping me edit the book. A gal from work who basically went to school for writing, and a friend who has written a book, and one of the coaches in the self-expression and leadership program is going to be helping me as well.
Aren't smart friends that are good at editing handy to have?
Yeah.
They came handy for me because I self-published and I had to do my own editing, and God knows that's not my strength. I can get the story out, but yeah. Thank God for them.
I want it to be something that everyone gets something out of, not just people who've been either sexually abused or sexually assaulted. But I want to have, it's basically anyone who's been through trauma. It's like finding a therapist. And this is the interesting thing too, is about with my therapy with Angela, is I trusted her from the word go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust people. I do not trust people.
Yeah.
And I trusted her.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my mom, I'm like, I met this gal, she's my therapist, and this is what I'm learning, and this stuff is amazing. First thing my mom said was, you need to find a different therapist. And I physically took a step back, and I'm like, why would you say that? And she's like, well, you just need to find a different therapist. I'm like, well, I'm telling you that this is working. And so I just let it go, and I chalked it up to my mom being scared that our relationship was going to change.
Gotcha.
It was on a very subconscious level.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless of that knowledge, I wasn't going to let anyone stop me. If something's working for me, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And the fact is, you have to get outside of your comfort zone if you want to heal. Healing is not comfortable at all.
Amen.
Amen,
man.
Very, it seems I mean, it's very confronting. It's very, you have nowhere to hide. You're just looking right at it,
It's true. It's
you
true.
know, but it's like the other side is worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting. And then there was, there was a time where Angela thought she broke me.
Oh, really?
I think it's just hysterical. Okay. So she was, okay. So with me and Angela, I'm just kind of like, some of the things that she wanted to do, I'm like, fine, I'll humor you.
Mhm.
I'll just do it, whatever.
Mhm.
And one of the times was, she's like, okay, we're going to tap on, rage. And I started laughing and I'm like, rage? Really? We're going to
Mhm.
tap on rage? I was like, okay, I'm like the least angry person. I don't,
Yeah.
you know, whatever, maybe in my 20s. Yeah, I could see that. So I'm like, fine, I'll humor you. So he started doing the tapping and I felt this energy kind of come up my legs. And I'm like, okay, that's really weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, we have to do another round. I'm like, sure, fine, whatever. And then it started going up my body and then another round. And then I was just like, I felt it at my neck and I'm like, we got to go another round. She goes, yeah.
Wow.
So we did another round and I was just like, I still don't feel good. And she's looking at me, her eyes are huge.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, she's scared shitless, but I'm fine because I know
Yeah.
I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I wasn't panicked, and that's normally not my MO. It's I usually panic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, okay, I was calm, and I'm like, all right, all right. So she was trying everything, nothing was working, and I finally stood up, and I'm like, oh my god, that feels so much better. I'm like, let me check something. Sat back down, I'm like, yep. Got back up. I'm like, you need to clear that energy around that chair. You know. Then that was the end of our session. I went home. A week later, I came back, and she looked at me, and she goes, "You're back." And I'm like, well, didn't we have something scheduled? She's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, I didn't think you'd ever come back. And I'm like, okay. I said, I'm back. And I said, I know what I experienced. I want to know what you saw because it obviously scared the shit out of you. So she basically said out of all the people she's done EFT for, she's
Mm-hmm.
never seen that much movement. And she saw the energy. It was like a red energy come up my body.
Wow.
Yeah. And she said she has never seen that before. And I'm thinking, and I'm like, okay, so where'd all this rage come from?
Mm-hmm.
And it quite possibly kind of could have been, well, obviously this lifetime things that happened to me, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it was previous lifetimes too that were healed in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So it was just very,
That's
very
really
interesting.
cool, though.
Yeah.
Did
I
you
mean, I can
feel,
laugh
were you
about it
free of
now.
it after you worked through that?
Did I what?
Did you free it after that?
I I felt fine. It's like I didn't really feel much different.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I'm thinking the majority of it was past life stuff.
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah. That's super interesting.
Yeah, and the thing is too, okay, so my name is Angela. I prefer being called Angie, but people with the name Angela have got like angels around them all the time. I mean, everyone has at least a guardian angel.
Mm-hmm.
I've many angels around me, and it's very interesting that I learned how to work with angels, and ever since then, they've been helping me with pretty much everything I need.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and uh, and I always felt supported, going through this whole healing process
Mm-hmm.
because I was on the mindset that I'm going to do whatever I need to do to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And not a lot of people have that drive, which I don't quite understand, but I guess I get it.
Yeah.
You have to be so uncomfortable that you want to change what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of people that are just subconsciously living.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to get out of your subconscious and start working on your subconscious.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's everything. Our thoughts are everything. And, like the
Yeah.
brain can't even distinguish. Like, if you say, all right, I'm not going to do something, it only, like it only hears that not. It's true.
Well,
It can't distinguish.
Well, here's the thing too, and not could be a scrub word. So if you say that I'm not going to,
Like you want to make a change. I'm not going to eat junk food. It is.
well, yeah, and the thing is, it's like your thoughts are energy.
Mm-hmm.
When you voice them, it gives it more energy. The more you voice them, the more energy is given to it. So, for instance, one of the guys that I'm coaching, he always, I mean, this was like 3 weeks in a row, 3 weeks of coaching calls, has said that I don't have time,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, what do you mean you don't have time?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, the gal who was part of running our first uh, work day has 2 jobs, plus
Mm-hmm.
she leads the self-expression leadership program. So tell me again how you don't have time?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, you're right. And I said, okay, so my bold request of you is that through the rest of the program,
Mm-hmm.
that you don't say you don't have time. And he goes, yeah, I'm going to replace it with I have plenty of time. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
good. That's a good step.
Huge.
And it's like by him saying I don't have time, of course
Mm-hmm.
he's not going to have time because he's
Mm-hmm.
telling the universe he doesn't want time.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to be very careful with the words that you put out there.
Especially after what follows I am,
And this is actually interesting too, is that we have a daily thread with my group, and we say who we are as the possibility for that day. So
Mm-hmm.
we're creating the possibilities that we're becoming.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's this life is about creating.
Absolutely.
um if like it started out with, if we create these negative stories, like my I was imprisoned by the abuse because I'm like, woe is me, this stuff happened to me, I'm not normal, I'm broken, da 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 da, nobody's gonna love me. And that's the story I created around the abuse. Fact is, I was abused, and I made up the story imprisoned me for many years, and I'm now finally free of that story. And now my story is freeing, because the more I talk about the abuse, the less pull it has on me, the less draw it has on me. And I can now talk to anyone about the abuse and
That's
not just
amazing.
break down and cry. Which it went from October till like maybe about a month ago.
Wow.
And I could talk to men about it.
Yeah. Well, I know
And
that we had talked about doing this a while back, but
oh
I knew you
my
weren't
God,
ready
yeah.
yet. And that's
Yeah.
wonderful. I'm super proud of you. How does it
Well,
feel?
I'm a rock star.
You are a badass, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How does it
And
feel?
it feels, you know what? I mean, it feels really good. Like I said, I've had a piece about me that I've never had in my entire life.
Yeah.
Um, and I owe that to not only myself, but to everyone who's got me to this point.
Yeah.
You know, even Angela. I mean, if I hadn't gone through that therapy, I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah. I wouldn't
You
know
know,
you. I'm grateful for her as well. Yeah. We're all connected. We're all
yes.
connected. And, that's, I know that somebody's going to hear this that maybe has gone through that and
Yeah.
maybe is in that place. How does someone even, what advice would you give to someone that's been through abuse that, is stuck like and I know it's everyone's journeys in their own, but like, what can you say to them?
The one thing that I would say is look at yourself in the mirror and just say, I'm worth it. I am worthy of healing. I am worthy of being happy. I am worthy of being free of this. And the next step would be to find a therapist, and the thing is too, it's like Angela even did some art therapy with me, which brought up some interesting things.
Mm-hmm.
So find somebody that you trust. Find a therapist that you trust. If the abuse is happening right now and you don't know who to talk to, um, talk to. And here's the thing, because Janie's got a gun, came out when. That was Aerosmith's song.
Yeah, 80,
And it was
late 80s.
about sexual abuse. The thing is, I am lucky in, sorry, you can
No
probably hear that
worries.
motorcycle. Sorry about that.
No
Um,
worries.
I am lucky that I had a mother who um, did whatever she could to protect her children. I understand that there are some people, like in Janie's Got a Gun, where the mother blames the child for her husband sexually abusing the child.
Hmm.
That's got to be a really rough situation. The only thing I can say is talk to somebody, find somebody that will help you. Maybe go to your school, and just say, hey, this is happening. um, Somebody that will do what they can to protect you. And if you feel that they're not going to protect you, talk to somebody else. Just keep talking to people and asking for help.
And there's
um,
a lot of help out there.
yeah, and you know what? There's online. There's like I live in Fort Collins, and there's SAVA, which is Sexual Assault Victims Advocate. There's also uh, RAIN, RAIIN, I think it is.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of resources online. Even reach out to them. Um, you know, and they can help you find things in your area or people in your area to help you.
Love it.
Yeah, I just, with this book, I just want to let people know that you don't have to suffer in silence, that you're not the only one that has gone through this, and that there's hope on the other side. I mean, yeah,
There is hope. Always is hope. And
yeah,
you're a living testament to that. And I hope that you're proud of yourself. I know you are a badass. You really
yeah.
are. You are.
Yeah, I am actually proud of the work that I've done, and that's kind of why I have it. Yeah, without it, I kind of want to say something, but then I don't want to put the energy out there for it.
Sure. Sure.
Um, so I'm gonna have to mull over that and maybe bring it up again later sometime.
Absolutely. Everything in time. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
So how can people find you?
You know what? I actually have to create a Facebook page for my book.
Okay.
Um, right now, I'm actually on Facebook under Angie Aries Art.
Okay.
Um, I'm in Aries, and that's Aries Art is what I have my photography under.
Okay.
Um, I just didn't want to put my last name out there for when I realized that employers look at people's Facebook pages, and it's like, fuck you, it's none of your business.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, so I changed my last name.
Love it. Thank you so
But yeah,
much.
yeah,
I'm really proud of you and grateful for you for who you are and the friend you are, and really proud of you. I mean, and this is going to help somebody, and nobody's
yeah,
alone.
yes. Yeah, and I just want people to know that there are other options, and that if they truly want to heal, it's on a mind, body, spirit level.
Yeah.
Um, and I can't even put that plainer, because even when I just did the talk therapy, I'm like, there's still more.
Yeah.
There's still more. And then when I got the EFT and an SRT, I'm just like, okay. And that you kind of have to do things in balance.
Mm-hmm.
So when I learned SRT, I went gung-ho on SRT, but then I was out of balance with the mind and the body. So I kind of had to backtrack and kind of bring it all along again.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and there's different ways to heal your body. Like you can pick up belly dancing,
Mm-hmm.
and just work through, like belly dancing, to be honest with you, was kind of my way of taking my sensuality back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, this is mine.
Yeah.
You know, and it's amazing. It's just, you know, something as simple as belly dancing, something as simple as you know, talking, just having a conversation, can be freeing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's amazing. So
Thank
many
you
different
so
ways.
much.
You're welcome.
This has been great. I'm grateful for your story. And yes, please, 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 you will come back, won't you? We
Yes,
got all
yes,
kinds of stuff to
definitely.
talk about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We got
I'm going to
the
send
good.
you that video. I think her name's Dolores Cannon. I'll send it to you. It's
Oh,
fascinating.
yeah.
It's
Very
about
cool.
15 minutes long, but yeah, check that out. We can talk about that for
Yeah.
sure. But thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Angie.
Yeah,
Keep
you
your
are
angels
welcome.
around and be blessed. I know you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you
You too,
again.
buddy.
And thank everybody for listening in. And Angie Aries Art on Facebook if you want to get in touch. And definitely keep me posted. I know you will. And I'll keep everyone posted as to when your book's coming out. So,
Yes, definitely.
awesome. Have a great week.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.